Okay, good morning everyone and welcome along to today's Tide Masterclass, how to price your new business and products correctly. This is our 30th Masterclass since we started doing these in March. Can't believe we've got to 30 already. Really pleased to see a good number of you watching us live. And if you're watching this after the event, hello to you too. And if you found us on our YouTube channel or through our on-demand service, great to have you along. Quick tour of Zoom. For those of you maybe not used this portal before, there's a Q&A button and a chat button at the bottom or at the top or the side, wherever you put it on your screen. We'll be doing a Q&A later with the panel, so if you have any questions as we go through, do please put those into the Q&A box. If you have any general concerns or chats or anything you want to say to us or the panel, use the chat room. We'll be putting some links and some resource links, etc., in that chat room too later on, so do keep an eye out for those there. My name is Kuan Hawker and I'm the event manager here at Tide. And for those of you who are new to us and what we do, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of our services before we get going on today's masterclass. So we're the fastest growing online business current account provider in the UK, and we currently have over 200,000 members. Our aim is to provide our members with a service that saves them both time and money when it comes to their business banking. We're great for SMEs and for startups and for freelancers. And as there's no credit checks or startup fees or monthly fees or annual fees, this allows you to even try us out alongside your current business account provider and see where we can save you time and money. The sign-up process itself is really simple. It takes between 5 and 10 minutes. At the end of that time, you'll get your sort code and you'll get your account number so you can start banking straight away. And you'll get your wonderful looking Tide card through the post a few days later. The app itself, really easy to set up and use as well, and a great amount of in-app products that will make your banking life a lot easier. A couple of my favorites, it sounds a bit geeky, but they are, is the ability to see where your money has gone and when it went there through our auto categorization tool. And you're also able to send fully customizable invoices as well through the app, so you can include your logo and fully edit the email that goes along with those invoices. So some really good in-app products to help with your banking. I'm going to talk to you a little bit later on about how you can stay up to date with what we're doing here at Tide in terms of events and the business in general, and how we're going to make it even easier for you to become a Tide member. But now we're going to get on with the main part of today's masterclass. And we've got a fantastic panel for today's topic. I'm really pleased to have them along. I'm really grateful for their time and effort for today. And so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And first of all, we're going to start with Lucy, who some of you may recognize as a star of our brand new Tide TV ad. So we're very honored to have her along. She's not been Superstar Diva just yet, but we'll wait and see. Lucy, good morning.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Nice to obviously looking forward to hearing some of your questions in the thing. But so yeah, I'm Lucy, as Kuan mentioned, currently on the Tide adverts, so hopefully you might have seen me. But so I'm the founder and owner of the London Refinery, and started it literally 5 years ago from my own kitchen, and it's a candle and natural fragrance brand. And we've kind of moved not just into candles but also teaching people about candle making with our workshops online and in person too. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey really over those 5 years, and hopefully today I'm going to share some of those learnings with you guys about some of my pricing. So that's the aim of today.
Great, thanks Lucy. And Russ, good morning.
Good morning. Hey everyone, my name is Russ. I am a Canadian living in the UK for the last 6 years, much like Lucy, myself, my co-founders. We started this business around a dining room table with the focus of using technology to make it easier for people to connect. So we're a service marketplace, meaning if you're a professional offering any one of 400 services, it's an easy way to find customers and grow your business. That's Brilliant. What we do.
Great, thanks Russ, and yeah, again, thank you both for joining us this morning. So we're going to get on with the main part of the masterclass. And so, Lucy, it's great to have one of our members discussing their journey in relation to this subject. And I guess it'd be a good place to start would be how you and others can decide on their wholesale pricing strategy.
Yeah, so obviously, just in terms of the kind of people that are here in the kind of call today, it's kind of be interested. We kind of started off really, I want to talk about wholesale pricing, and that's kind of how I started in terms of the business. I actually literally went to a trade show that 5 years ago, and I started having lots of sales, and I was a little bit shocked because one, I didn't know how to price it, and also when you're sort of selling into kind of stores, it kind of gets a little bit more complicated. So first of all, really, I kind of advise if you guys are looking to sell at wholesale, if you had a really amazing product, is to obviously start by doing your research. Obviously, I started off by having a look what other people are doing, to get that comparison really in terms of price. That's probably a good idea. But also, I really advise maybe actually taking your product and doing a really detailed kind of spreadsheet of all your costs as well, which I probably need to update myself. But just to kind of really understand how much your product is actually costing you, and then obviously work out that time, or if it's in your studio, and actually those kind of extra costs that it's going to add on as well. So yeah, get that spreadsheet of what those that product is actually going to cost you. And then kind of a tip in terms of how I kind of price, and I think that's kind of what most people advise, is obviously I obviously sell my candles for about £20 for my kind of classic size. When you're selling it into a store, they will probably ask for about half that. So I'm selling into stores at around sort of £10, and then you really need to be making your product for kind of half that again. So it's quite a good guide if you are new to selling to like wholesale, to kind of work on those halves. I think that's kind of the best kind of guide to kind of work to. But also, I don't know if anyone's a kind of shop owner as well. They probably would advise actually if you can give larger kind of margin than that, so kind of a 2.4 kind of times would even be better, I think, that a lot of stores are asking for. But it's quite a good thing that I didn't really know how to cost for wholesale when I first started, and I think that sort of halving and halving it again works really well. So really you need to be getting that price kind of a sort of quarter of that wholesale price should be your actual, in terms of my wax, my oils, or my essential oils, all those little bits that make up that product should be kind of under that 1/4 of that price. So I hope that makes sense for everyone in terms of wholesale pricing. And as I said, I kind of had to learn that over time. And obviously if you can get it down and get that cost to trade price as low as possible, so that shop can make as much money as possible, I think that's always a challenge. But that's kind of in terms of wholesale pricing, my secret little tip, I would say.
Nice. When you talked about the research, Lucy, and you went to trade shows, was there anything else you did which was useful in terms of research, or places you went which may have been surprising?
Well, I mean, actually, to be honest, I think I did the trade show wasn't really research. I actually went, luckily, and I really advise actually if anyone does have a new product, is to, I mean, maybe they're doing more virtual trade shows at the moment, but the trade show was quite a good starter for me. Got me access to lots of different stores, which then made me realise I have to actually go and make quite a few thousand candles. So that was a bit of a scary kind of time for me, but to do. But I think, it was quite a good way. I'd also, just have a look at other competitors, see what they're doing, what are they pricing really. You don't want always to look at others, but it is quite a good sort of way of kind of working out some sort of initial pricing, I think.
Okay, great. Move on to the next slide.
I thought also, because we are talking a lot about pricing, but I think it's about how do you actually add value, and can you create that, I suppose a larger price really. And we kind of add in kind of like gift wrapping in our special candle kits that we have. We actually add a little film as well that takes people through how to make a candle. So it's kind of not just giving a product, but also giving knowledge as well. So I think you also can, charge more for that. So I think have a look back to your product and think what are those value add elements you can include to kind of maybe increase your profit on that, or increase your price as well. And I think this is I think what Russ is also going to sort of talk a little bit about, but also like how do you solve a problem as well? Like I think it's not just I'm making a candle, but actually I've come back from a marketing background, but how are you solving that problem for someone? And a lot of people have come to my company not just to buy a candle, but they've come to learn how to make a candle, and they want to start their own business. So I'm kind of selling something, selling a business really, and maybe a future for people. So I think that's something you can't really price, and it is probably a lot more exciting than just selling a candle. So I think, and then pricing really kind of becomes a little bit irrelevant really. And people will pay whatever really if they can then start a whole new business around candle making. So I think you can get quite focused on price, and I probably should be personally probably more focused on price, but I think if you can create a dream and maybe focus on that more, I think the pricing then comes after that. So I think, yeah, it's quite exciting to focus on that way.
Nice.
That makes sense. So I'm just having a rant.
It makes total sense. Yeah, it's a really nice way to look at it, I guess. And next slide.
And then also, guys, I wanted to kind of just to talk about popcorn pricing. I think this is a bit of a random one, but I thought it was quite interesting how there's basically this kind of cinema that actually worked out a way of pricing their popcorn to make people want to purchase a larger size. So they basically working in threes. So if you have a product, be quite a good idea if you can kind of make it into 3 different products, and actually they moved their middle size to the large, and then they created 2 more products at the start. So people always, and the larger size was always only a little bit more. So people kind of pegged it on the middle and then went for the larger because they thought, oh, it was only an extra kind of 50 cents. So it was quite a good kind of technique about, you know, looking at what other people are doing and kind of tips and tricks about how they're kind of creating that larger product, pushing people to maybe buy that larger kind of item. So that was quite a good kind of sort of tip about having it in threes is a really good idea, and then pegging the value on the middle. I think that was quite a nice way. And then I mean, I don't, in a way, you know, I've said here, creating that illusion of that upgrade. It seems all a little like, I don't know, you want to be fair, but at the same time, you want to feel like that consumer is getting value as well. And then, yeah, as I said, kind of pricing in threes, I think the perfect example of, you know, it's the iPhone, how they've kind of got their, the 16 megabyte 64, and what was it, the 126 megabytes, and everyone always goes for the 64. So it's quite interesting because they've got that larger size one, they've kind of moved it from the 16 to the 64. So I think it's quite interesting just looking at other kind of ways and techniques to kind of maybe push up that price point of your products.
Great. Next slide.
And then, guys, I just wanted to show you an example really of how I've kind of done it in my products. And actually, in a way, I'm using this example, but I didn't really think about it in threes. I just kind of accidentally formed it and actually realized, luckily, I am actually doing that job. And I think it's quite nice for you guys just to see here, you know, in terms of the different products, we've got our £25 starter kit, which is being really, really popular over kind of lockdown when everyone's in isolation. I think everyone's just the whole gifting market and also making your own items has kind of gone wild at the moment. So I think, yeah, that one's been really good to have that price point. I think something under sort of £30 is quite a good idea. It's you know, something you can give as a gift, but also it's quite nice just to try out and test. And then our £39 kit is actually starting to sell a lot more because I've added in the jug, but I think it's, yeah, that one's probably doesn't sell as much, but actually the candle making double kit is probably our most popular one as well. So people are really, really liking that. They can do that together. And then so it's quite nice to have those 3 different products there as an example of what we said earlier. But what I've learned from actually doing this, kind of our research really from doing this talk, is that I actually do need to, you know, use those popcorn learnings really. And actually, how do I actually do what they've said there by adding an extra large set? Do I add a bespoke blend where people can make their own candle kit blend at home? And maybe that is a slightly more expensive item, but it is creating that value there. So I'm kind of, yeah, how can I use those kind of tips there? And also in my workshops as well, we've actually added in bespoke make your own fragrance in the workshop as well. I actually had that before this talk, but obviously we're not doing so many in-person classes at the moment, but that one was really popular. And I think it's interesting to give, and obviously that's a lot more. So it's like, and that's sort of around the £450 mark, but obviously it's a sort of 3 hours with me making your own bespoke blend. So I think, yeah, people are really, really actually interested in that. I was quite surprised as well of the interest. So it's interesting, I think, having the confidence as well, just to go ahead and pop, you know, if you put that product up and see what, you know, the uptake really, and if people are interested. So yeah, it's quite nice to be able to show you guys the 3 options there.
Great, yeah, it's a really nice lead on from the sort of popcorn pricing, and yeah, as you said, we've been going through this masterclass this week. We've all been learning stuff as we've been talking and getting ready, so it's been a really nice process. Great. And then your last bit.
Yeah, the last, and also really, because obviously it was lovely to be outspoken and to be part of the Tide talk, but I really want to say, who really knows? And there's a lot of, different sort of ways of kind of pricing, and like the rules that I mentioned earlier about wholesale pricing, about the 2 times and things like that. But really, I think the main thing is just to get started, get that price out there, get your website live. And you can always review at a later date. I know people don't always like a price increase, but, over time, as I mentioned here, that I've had to sort of increase my prices over the past, I said 2 years, but over the 5 years really that I've been doing the business, have increased some of the workshop prices. And I think it comes with kind of confidence as well. I think the more people enjoy it, and you feel actually that there is value in that, and you can charge a little bit more. So I think it is, having that confidence. And really, I think this is, I was talking to someone about this, and they're probably just saying you're probably just not charging enough. And whatever you're charging now, maybe have a look at that and think how you can add value to that, maybe just by increasing it slightly. So I think, who knows? Just get going. That's my kind of top tip, really. And then tweak later as well.
Great. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Lucy. It's great stuff. And yeah, Lucy will be back later for the Q&A session. So do get your questions in. I've got a couple coming through already, and we'll get to those later on. Awesome. So thank you once again. And Russ, we're going to come to you now. And Russ, it's great to have you. You have some great insight on the subject too from your extensive work in the area. So it's wonderful to have you along. And I think we're going to start by looking at pricing models.
Indeed, we are. Hi, everyone. So, like Lucy was talking about, today we're going to be talking not just about pricing, but I think, it's really important to consider your entire monetization model. And it's an extremely broad topic, and it's definitely more than an hour's worth of content. But I hope the slides that I go over the next little bit will help at least spark some interest or motivate you to experiment a little bit. I see there's a question in the Q&A for how do you price, what about services? What about pricing services? Fortunately, I spend a lot of time focused on that, both in my own business and for the various types of professionals that use bidvine. So let's start at the very top, which is, what are some of these pricing models? And I think one thing that is important to understand is that, and I think it's pretty common knowledge, but you want to ensure that the perceived value of your service or product is greater than the perceived cost plus the friction of making that purchase. So, customers need to see that value and valued enough so that they're actually going to transact. But how and when they transact obviously does create friction, but there's ways in lessening that friction and really maximizing that conversion. So first and foremost, hourly is probably the most basic format, especially if you're in a service-based business. If I'm a personal trainer, I charge 45 quid an hour, and that's it. So you want an hour of personal training, here's the rate. When you get into products or you have physical goods, that's when we can start to look at things like cost plus. So very, similar to Lucy's example, where you have your cost for your hard goods, whether that be your wax and your wicks, etc., plus a certain amount of margin that you'd like to achieve to help with your operational costs and obviously driving profit. But then we get into sort of value-based pricing. And this is where you really want to handle on what the market, what the perceived value of your product is in the market. So as an example, I have a friend who does cement candle holders and plant holders. And while his material costs and time would probably net out to about £10 per pot, he's able to charge over twice that because that's the cost that the market's willing to bear. So always keep in mind, what is the value that individuals are going to be getting out of your product or service. Of course, we have project-based and package pricing. This works a lot for services where maybe customers are a little bit less familiar with how it works. So a common example I see is say a wedding photographer, oftentimes when people are hiring a wedding photographer, it's their first time, how many hours do you need a wedding photographer for? I don't know. I just know I need them for the day. I don't know what's included. I don't know how many photos I need. What do people normally get? So typically you see these packages arise, which makes it much easier for customers to understand, which lowers that friction and helps with that conversion. And the same is true even with, going back to my personal training example, oftentimes people package a series of services. So as an example, instead of just offering one personal training session or one tuition session, tell you what, I'll offer 10 at a discount, right? So the customer's getting value in terms of having that discount, and you're getting that booked revenue sooner, and the benefit of having that customer for over 10 sessions. And of course, there is, a bunch of, behavioral science that goes into helping those customers reach what you call a habit moment. So if you're offering a tuition session, maybe the customer won't necessarily see the true value after one session. Maybe it'll take 5. So it might behoove you to package it in such a way that you'll realize, or the customer will realize, the value throughout that process. And of course, this works for any broader service as well. So if I'm doing home renovation, if I'm getting an extension put on, oftentimes we see builders approach it with a package price, because if I just give you an hourly price as a tradesman and it's such a big project, I as a customer have no idea in terms of where that's going to land. And that uncertainty of cost is another friction point that you definitely want to avoid. So you want to make it as clear as possible. Retainers work very well. And, the one thing I'll say is, feel free to experiment with the different types of models for your own product. As an example, or service, I know someone that's a personal trainer, and instead of them having a hourly fee or a package fee, what they actually do is they say, look, pay me this amount a month and you can come to my studio as many times as you want. We'll do a one-on-one session. And what he found is that ultimately he was able to get more revenue and get more committed customers to enjoy his service. So that's something you can definitely experiment with and use. Last but not least, and of course there's different iterations of this, we have this outcome-based pricing model. The idea of charging in relation to the direct value that the customer gets out of your service. A simple example of this is working with a solicitor, let's say, and you have a lawsuit, and they'll take, say, 15% of whatever you win. Their pricing is directly aligned to the value you get, right? And because of that, they're more likely to convert, more likely to sign you on. And those are some of the top level pricing models. Let's head to the next one. So knowing your business is really important, and knowing the market. So with all the revenue you receive, it's really important to understand what that true cost of the revenue is. So not just your cost of acquisition, which is typically associated with marketing channels, whether that's handing out flyers or paying on Facebook or in Bidvine, but it's also understanding what your cost to serve is, right? How much does it cost me to actually service this customer in relation to my time, my rate, etc. And then I can set my revenue accordingly and ensure that I'm constantly making positive margin. Billing, order frequency, repeat orders. This is something that's incredibly important when it comes to service-based businesses as well as product-based businesses. So if I am let's say a life coach that charges 60 pounds a session, and it costs me 100 pounds to get that one customer, is that a great return? Well, oftentimes life coaches will actually book professional or customers for a long period of time, whether that be 6 months, whether that be 12 months. Oftentimes that could be up to 2,000 pounds in revenue. So when you're looking at 2,000 pounds in revenue and it costs you 50 pounds to get that customer, the ROI is definitely there. So understanding what your lifetime value is of your customer, how frequently they're going to come back, and how quickly you'll make back that investment or that cost of revenue is important. Because of course, if you can make that money back faster, then you can reinvest it in your marketing and acquisition channels. Competitive and alternative analysis. This is something you need to look at, right? We need to look at how much are our competitors charging, how do they model their pricing and their structure, and how do I compare? And I'll talk a little bit on the next slide about, what are some factors that will influence how you charge relative to your competition. But it's also important to understand what the alternatives are. And oftentimes we see individuals really narrow their lens and just focus on the one direct service that they offer. So if it is, a simple example is Guinness, right? Guinness doesn't see other breweries as their only competition, right? They also see staying at home and watching a movie or going to a movie theater when we used to be able to do that, right? Their focus is all forms of entertainment effectively, and having that purview or having that perspective enables them to really understand what the true alternatives are for the customer and be able to price accordingly. A more direct example is if I'm a personal trainer and I have an understanding of what a local gym membership may cost, right? So if I'm offering incremental value, I really need to demonstrate that value to that customer compared to a gym. Last but not least, understanding shifts in demand. I think we all could agree this is probably one of the most turbulent years in relation to shifting demand. I've seen, wedding photographers that had a full book of business now, are scrambling for the one or two jobs that may come through. Myself, I had to delay my wedding, so I would have been married now, but sad times. Don't worry, it'll happen next year, I hope. But understanding those shifts in demand are really important. So using the wedding photography example, one of the wedding photographers, or several now on our platform, they said, I see this massive reduction in live events and in weddings, but do you know what I am seeing? Because there's no tax stamp duty on buying a house, I'm seeing more and more people buying houses. So as a result, photography within the house and preparing those properties for market, there's a huge demand for that now. So understanding that shift in demand, they could still use their skills as a photographer, but just shift it towards another vertical, which is more appropriate for what the market is looking at right now. And that's knowing your business and knowing the market.
That's really interesting. I think the thing that stuck out to me there was the alternative analysis. I think that's something maybe I certainly wouldn't have thought about if I was starting a new business. I would have been looking at my direct competitors, like you say, not thinking about the other factors. The Guinness example is fantastic, that having to think, the other people, going to theatre, going to the movies, going to a concert, anything else which is not going to the pub or going to buy cans at the off license or whatever it is. I think it's really interesting. Yeah,
having that broad lens really lets you, see what that customer value, what their perspective of value is, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's what do customers value? Can you deliver against that value, or can you deliver above that value? And that's what's really important.
Very nice, very good. Okay, next slide.
So reputation and pricing. There's effectively a sales funnel, right, when it comes to any service or product. And it starts as early as, awareness. Oh, I'm kind of aware of this thing. Education, what is it? And, really motivating that customer to eventually purchase. But before that purchase happens, we have this thing called, consideration. And you want to have an understanding of how much consideration the customer puts into your service or product, and how much price is a factor in relation to that consideration. So what I mean by that is, if I'm hiring like a Sparky or an electrician to come to my house and install a new light, it's a pretty straightforward job. As long as I'm confident that person is qualified, really price will be the sort of main consideration there, right? I have an understanding that they'll be able to, do a good job. So I'll be more price sensitive. If it is something like an experience, or if it is something like a wedding photographer, my consideration point may be testimonials, or maybe your portfolio of work. I may yes, price will play a factor, but I may care more about other factors in making my decision, because the last thing you want is like a 100 quid wedding photographer showing up with a Polaroid on your special day. Sorry, I just have wedding top of mind. Signaling trust. We live online a lot today. A lot of people are getting services, products more and more so, especially this day and age. So you want to be able to convey trust, and you want to be able to convey reputation as it relates to your business. So how can you do that, right? Lucy's example was amazing. I was talking to her before this. Their product photography is spectacular, right? It's a great way to enable customers to really understand what they're going to receive. And if you picture it in a very appealing way, you can of course increase your price accordingly. The same thing goes for reviews, right? Do you have reviews on Google? Do you have reviews on the marketing platforms you use? If you have a negative review, as an example, are you replying? Are you being proactive, right, to make things right? Are you engaged? How much time do you take in crafting your description or your messaging, or how you position your product? All of these things come across. Even how you communicate with prospective customers is another thing that really helps signaling trust. Going back a couple points to the pricing models, in one way of reducing friction, which is actually incredibly effective, is this idea of having a free trial or free assessment or free chemistry session or free quotation, depending on your service. A lot of personal trainers offer free assessment session for 40 minutes. I'll come by, we'll work out. You'll get a feel for how I do my sessions. And I'll get a feel for, your goals. Same thing is true of life coaching. Same thing is true of, if I'm coming to do renovation work, and offering a free quote. On Bidvine, our data shows that if you are being proactive and you're offering these type of assessments or calls or you name it, you're going to convert at a higher rate, right? If you respond to customers faster, you're going to convert at a higher rate. If you have reviews, you're going to convert at a higher rate. So all of these things go into the pot in terms of enabling you to maximize your revenue. And that's where this increasing price with reputation comes. I have a friend who, someone that he's a friend, and he uses Bidvine. When he first started out, he didn't have that many hires. He didn't have, that much of a portfolio. And over time, he's been able to build his portfolio. Now he's charging 30% more than he did, 2 years ago. So as you build these indicators, as you help show social proof through, external reviews, you can increase your price accordingly. I think, Lucy touched on it, which is, a lot of people often just first of all, get a price out there. Absolutely, right? Get them all out there, but definitely experiment, right? Try different things. That a lot of people have this sort of set it and forget it mentality, right? That's been my price for the last 10 years, so it's going to stay my price. No, right? Think of the value. Think of how you're changing your offering. Think of the incremental value you're able to create, and try different models, right? Whether it's offering 3 different price points, whether it's offering different packages, whether it's offering retainers. There's a lot of behavioral science that goes into, smaller things like don't end your price in a 0 or a 5. It's been shown that prices that end in a 4 or a 9 actually convert better, right? These types of things, work to a degree, but really it's understanding that customer value and being able to deliver against that value. And I think those might be my slides.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it, Russ. I've got a couple of questions which I'll come back to during the Q&A session, maybe if there's not many coming in. But that was awesome. Thank you so much. Some really interesting insights and really great examples as well. I think it's given me, not even as a small business owner, a lot to think about. So hopefully a lot of small business owners out there, or potential small business owners, are giving them a lot to think about and to sort of action as well, which is fantastic. So thank you. So we've got a little hints, tips and resources section we're going to now. And so the first 2 are from Lucy, and I've just put the live links to what everybody's going to be discussing in the chat room as well. So Lucy, maybe you just want to go through these 2 resources that are on the screen in front of us.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think just in terms of what Russ has just said as well, I think amazing. I think I've got lots of notes in my mind here for that as well. I think just before I even go on to the popcorn pricing, I think the packaging your product, your product into one is really important. because I do it per person at the moment, and I think, yeah, and people will say, oh, if I have slightly less people, is it, so I think if you can package it into that one, I think this is an amazing idea. So I'm basically going to write that. That's in my first thing. I just want to tell everyone to like really think about that, because it can get quite, especially when you're working per hour and per person, then your client really starts looking at why is it anything. I think it's just quite a good idea in terms of that packaging thing, so I love that. But back to the hints and tips, I think, yeah, Kieran said he's going to be popping some links about the popcorn pricing. There's a really good article all about that, and why it is so useful. And it's just basically the fact that if you add that larger version and having it in the 3, you can just basically sell a lot more. So I think it's just a great kind of tip. And yeah, it's a really good article. It's quite a long one from an agency. So Kieran's going to put that in there and the link there. And then the pricing, so the pricing strategies as well. I think that was from actually Shopify link. So they've got a really good blog actually of all kind of tips about kind of pricing. I obviously use Shopify as my kind of platform. So it's quite good if you guys want to go quite quickly to market and try out some of your prices that we've talked about. That blog is really useful. It's got all about the kind of strategies in there that we kind of mentioned in the slides above. So yeah, a really good link there to kind of use. And yeah, just the main thing is, as Ross sort of mentioned, I would say get out there, get that live and start testing and see how you're going, but also keep manipulating those prices, I suppose, as well. And that's something I need to kind of learn and go back myself. But yeah, so that's kind of those 2 points, I think, and 2 links.
Awesome, thanks, Lucy. And then Russ, you've very kindly offered a special offer for people attending.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now, if you go to Bidvine, we have discounts for new professionals on the platform. We think it's important, especially in these times, to help people get started on the right foot. But for attending this, we'll throw in an extra 10 quid. So feel free just to sign up and email support@bidvine.com. We are all about services. So anything from home improvement to wellness to tuition and learning to events, even things like accountancy and business services, web design. We sort of have it all. I can't list all 400 services, but click the link, check it out, and you can see if we offer a service that you provide.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you both so much. So we've got a Q&A session coming up in just a second, but before we get on to that, I just wanted to give you a bit more information about what we do here at Tide. And so if you are new to us and what we do, please do remember to head over to the website and have a look. If that is too much trouble for all of you, don't worry, we're here to help. So next week, all of you will receive an email from us with a link to rewatch the masterclass. If you're not already one of our 200,000 members, you'll also have a link allowing you to sign up and start saving yourself time and money. Excuse me. All you need to do is click that link, download the Tide app, follow the really easy instructions, and you'll be able to start using Tide for all your business banking needs. For links to all of our previous masterclasses or information about upcoming events, please visit our blog site and events page, links to which are now in the chat room, wherever that is on your screen. We, of course, have a YouTube channel, so please do feel free to head over and have a look at that. And all the links to the YouTube channel and our social channels are in the chat room too. So like, follow, stay up to date with all Tide information through those links. If you're watching this on YouTube, all of the links that we've discussed during today's webinar are in the description, as well as all the links for our social channels as well. So just have a look below this video. And also please remember to subscribe and have a look around the channel and give us some feedback as well. If you have any ideas of future webinars or speakers you'd like us to get involved, then please do let us know. And if you're watching live and have any similar ideas, please do drop me an email that's detailed in the chat, or just give me some information in the chat room, and we'll be happy to receive that. So we now are going to move on to the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please do get them in. I think we probably covered the one from Nasima Hussain about pricing a service for us. I think we maybe had all that.
Yeah, I think so.
Covered. I just had a question about the sort of free session stuff you were discussing. How do you then have to factor those into your pricing as you move forward, or what would be the planning that you'd have to think about when doing this?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So oftentimes people associate that as a marketing cost, right? So it's sort of a cost per conversion. So when I talk to a lot of professionals, they say, look, get me 40 minutes with the customer, and my conversion is close to 100%, right? So okay. Yeah, you do need to factor your time as a cost associated with that. This day and age, a lot of people do this virtually, and you could reduce it to say 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But it relates to the value of that customer for you. So if you are, let's say, a domestic cleaner and someone's looking for a one-off cleaning, I probably wouldn't go in and say, I'll assess your property for free,
Yeah.
because, the revenue there isn't big. But if, I am a wedding photographer and my potential revenue is £2,000, I'll definitely spend 30 minutes with you on a call, going through my portfolio, answering any questions you have.
Sure.
That's my approach.
And I guess with things like that as well, I mean, talking of weddings again, when I got married a couple of years ago, we went on word of mouth and, review, especially initial reviews, and then word of mouth from friends who had an amazing photographer. And I guess that goes into the pricing as well. When it comes to the reviews side of stuff, which goes to your pricing, what do you think are the best strategies in terms of getting good reviews? You don't want to be seen to be pushing people to give you reviews, because that will maybe give you bad reviews in the end. But I wondered for people out there, what.
Yeah, it's a good question. And it depends on the stage of your business, right? And on Bidvine, we see the spectrum, right? We see people that are net new, which is, photography was a hobby of mine, I want to turn it into a career now, to people that have, decades of experience. And when you are someone with a lot of experience, it's a little bit easier to get those reviews, right? It's say, hey, Jim, thanks so much for having me over to do that project. Do you mind leaving me a review? When I have professionals here doing like home-based services for me personally, oftentimes they finish the job and they're like, yep, seem good, great. Do you mind leaving me a review? Just a quick ask. It's in person, it's easy to do. That's one way of doing it. If you're a new business and you haven't had any historic customers, oftentimes what I see professionals do, or even when they're newer to a platform, is offering a discount with the social contract of them leaving a review. So, hey, you know what, I'm new to this platform, I'm new to this country, I'm just building my book of business. Tell you what, for you, I'll give you 10% off, as long as at the end, if you're happy with it, you just promise to leave me a review. And that tends to work. But again, you want to do that, within reason. So another example I have, when I left Singapore, where I used to live, my flatmates were renting my room. And instead of renting it at market rate, they rented it at a much lower rate, because they knew they'd get bookings. And then as a result, they knew they would get reviews, and they were able to build up that reputation so that within 2 months, they were able to charge more than full market price. So there's different tactics you could use.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. And Lucy, have you had any experience with that at all, in terms of reviews and making it a success, or turning things around and then being able to, get repeat business and keeping your pricing at the level you needed to?
I mean, to be honest, that's something I need to learn, and that's one of the notes I was taking down for Russ, actually. I was like, get more reviews, because I think that's what makes it all worth it as well. When you do get those lovely, that lovely feedback, and you're kind of improving people's lives by giving them an amazing experience. But you do want to make sure you do get that information, and I do get some lovely emails through, so I probably need to put more of them. I do have a lot of them on the website, and I do keep add them, but I think if you can add as many as possible, I suppose, and maybe asking people I suppose how you do as Russ said, like, how do you do that in the right way, but I think I just need to add more, to be honest. I think it's just a great idea, and that's basically a good idea. But I think there's also some really good apps as well that you can pop into, especially Shopify. So don't work for that, but it's like you can insert some apps, and they automatically, after someone's purchase, it will send an email to them for them to review after like 10 days. So it's quite good, because then you don't actually have to get that, and actually post it underneath your product as well, so people are getting that live feed. So it's quite interesting as well, because then you can think, if you do get something someone didn't, wasn't, it's only happened once, I think someone didn't get something in their kit, but it was interesting to know, and you want to get that feedback as well. It's really important to then, but I also personally look at a lot of reviews on like Google and things. So if you can get those, it's really important. But also giving that incentive as well. I think we mentioned that after my classes as well, I always send a thank you email, lots of links where people can buy all the ingredients and things, so they can keep candle making. But then I also mention if you can give me a review if you enjoyed it. But also another tip as well, if you do send out a product, it's quite good. Someone was telling me they got a lovely little card saying, can you give us, if you enjoy the product, can you give us a review on the card? and then if you had some feedback, can you email here? So I thought that was really nice, because I love to hear what how people have enjoyed it, and also just how to improve as well. So I think and maybe I like a little card if you can include it in your product package. Is quite a nice little ad, things like that. And if you can install that app into your website, it's quite a good idea too.
Cool.
I will just add that all reviews don't have to be written, right? We live in a digital age. One thing we talk about quite a bit is humanizing your portfolio or your profile. So if you can get video testimonials, by all means, right? If you're running workshops and you can put together a clip of sort of what that experience is, it goes a much longer way than just saying, I've been doing great work for 20 years, right? You need to have that social proof to really drive that customer behavior. And you're right, sometimes it doesn't have to be an incentive. It could just be, reviews really mean a lot. I'm a small business. It'd be great if you could spend 2 minutes to do that.
Yeah, that kind of honesty is endearing, isn't it? And you feel like you're helping a small business out, you're more likely to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think, Russ, that's a really good point, actually, using video. I don't know if anyone with your products who's in the chat, but I think has video. But for me, having a video on the website, especially if the idea of putting reviews on film is such an amazing one. But having a video on my website, actually, I think probably 10 times the amount of sales I had. So it was quite interesting. I really recommend using film if you can on your sites.
There's a question there, Russ, that came out. I don't know if you've seen it from anonymous attendee.
I saw it. I know Anonymous very well. We go way back.
The question is, how does Bidvine allow coaches to offer 30 minutes free conversation?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the way Bidvine works is customers submit requests, and professionals pay to converse with those customers, those really warm leads, basically. And when you do that by sending a bid. So within your bid message, you can actually highlight that I offer a free taster session, or I offer a free chemistry session. In terms of our product roadmap, in the future, we will be adding something to the site where you basically tick that I offer free sampler sessions, and that would actually show up on your profile. But right now, it's just as simple as adding it into the message you send prospective customers.
Cool. Really useful. It's a nice ad, and if it's going to be made even easier later on, that's fantastic. Okay, we have had no more questions, so I'm going to take that as we've covered everything that everybody wants to know about, and we've done a very good job doing today's masterclass. So I will thank our panelists, Lucy and Russ. Thank you so much for your time, guys. It's been really insightful, really fantastic to have you along. Thank you to everybody that's turned up today as well to watch us live, and if you're watching this on YouTube, great to have had you along too. But yeah, so thank you everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again at future events, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.